This video is a resource to support teachers through the process of CBA 2. It considers the CBA in the context of engineering skills and uses examples of teacher practice to stimulate reflection on how those skills may be fostered prior to the CBA. This resource starts with the subject rationale to contextualise the CBA and demonstrates how to use curriculumonline.ie and the text in the assessment guidelines as a support to plan for CBAs. When planning any unit of learning, it is worth considering the rationale for engineering. The rationale references skills, which include the practical manufacturing skills, but also skills such as research and design, which are necessary as part of the real-world problem-solving process for the manufacture of products. Reflection is important through design and manufacture, but the CBA will give opportunities to learn through reflection and formative assessment to develop and demonstrate skills such as research, which may not be easily assessed in the final exam. There are 4 assessment moments in junior cycle engineering. CBA 1 Engineering in Action is in 2nd year, CBA 2 Research and Development is in 3rd year, followed by the project and the final summative assessment. In this image, each step on the stairs could represent a unit of learning, and every step the student takes should be fostering skills such as reflection, evaluation, research and design over the course of 1st and 2nd and 3rd year. The CBA should be planned for and considered the same as any other unit in that the student builds on previous skills and engages in learning the same as in any other unit. The difference is that during the CBA window, every engineering student will develop research skills through the lens of engineering in action and their research and development. While there is a summative element to the CBA, formative assessment is central to the CBA to encourage students' learning and reflection the same as every other unit of learning. These skills will be developed by planning across the strands of process and principles, design application, mechatronics, so when the students engage at the CBA, they will have established the necessary skills and will develop them further. CBA 2, however, is influencing the project and will change every year to reflect the engineering project. The theme will be prescribed at the NCCA and curriculumonline.ie, and we will explain these in a couple of moments. This poster was developed to help teachers plan for all assessment moments both collaboratively and individually. Once a teacher is fully engaged with the specification, explored formative assessment strategies and considered student experiences, teachers as a department can then agree a 3-week window to hold their CBA. They will also decide on the SLAR meeting date and who will facilitate that meeting. During the CBA window, teachers can offer guidance and feedback to students as they would in any other unit of learning, and begin thinking about possible strategies and approaches to the SLAR meeting and how they might discuss students' work. It is also advisable that teachers have conversations throughout the CBA window and develop professional dialogue to enhance the process for future cohorts. When the CBA is completed, the teacher will assign provisional descriptors to the student work and bring 4 samples of student work to the SLAR meeting. It is recommended that the SLAR meeting should take place within 1 month of the CBA window. Teachers can have discussions within the meeting and provide feedback to each other and reflect on the experience as a whole. Teachers are then reminded to apply their final descriptors to individual student work, having reflected on conversations within the SLAR meeting. The remainder of this resource will refer specifically to CBA 2. CBA 2 Research and Development is related to the theme of the project and will change each year to reflect the theme of the 3rd year project and will be issued prior to the CBA window each year by the NCCA. In a couple of moments I will demonstrate and give you an opportunity to access curriculumonline.ie to locate the CBA title. There are 3 lenses for CBA 2, unlike CBA 1 which has 4 lenses. The students will further develop and demonstrate skills in CBA 2 through the lenses of research and analysis. Research and analysis will be used to explore concepts, and the students will demonstrate their skills like communication their CBA through an appropriate media. We will consider each of these 3 lenses in more depth prior to considering how a teacher may support a student engaging in CBA 2. Pause the video and take a moment to consider the text on the slide. Considering Lens 1, Research and Analysis, students consider the prescribed theme and may start the CBA by analysing and brainstorming their thoughts and ideas, keywords, phrases and other pieces of information that will assist their research. Each student will be required to gather data and information from different sources to research the prescribed theme. Each individual student must conduct their own research using some field or primary research and or desk research or secondary research. Appendix 8 can be found on page 29 in the assessment guidelines and offers some possible headings students may include in their response. It is important that each student records the source or sources of all information gathered in order to assess its reliability and quality, and to ensure that the sources used can be referenced in the task. They should be encouraged to search effectively, evaluate and analyse material. Lens 2, Exploring Concepts. Pause the video and take a moment to consider the text on the slide. Moving to Lens 2, Exploring Concepts, the students may use the analysis activities such as brainstorming to establish relevant concepts that interest them, which may be connected to the prescribed theme as a whole or to a particular aspect of the theme. The research would allow the students to explore the concept or concepts with a view to developing an understanding on that concept and to understand what information will they use to communicate their understanding of the theme. The third and final lens, Communicating their CBA. Pause the video and just consider the text on the slide. The third lens is Communicating their CBA. Having completed their research and gathered all the relevant information, each student will present to them what they have learned having completed their classroom-based assessment. The information should be presented in their own words to demonstrate personal understanding of the knowledge and ideas relevant to the theme. Students should be encouraged to identify which information best communicates the work and choose the most suitable medium in which to present it. Before we progress, we will take time to consider the assessment guidelines and a possible starting point for CBA 2. The lenses, in particular Lens 2, use language which may guide a teacher when engaging students in CBA 2. We're going to use an example of classroom practice discussed by a JCT4 associate, Jane Doherty, and how she took an approach to build student research skills. The theme she used for the unit of learning was robotics, and we discussed this unit in the 2021 cluster workshop. However, we will reflect on this through the lens of CBA 2. The example presented by Jane is not a CBA, but solely a theme she chose for first or second year unit of learning. We will only use her example of robotics to contextualise how a teacher could support students as a starting point in a research topic. This is the full text for Lens 2, Exploring Concepts in CBA 2. Pause the video for a moment to read the extract. Students should be encouraged to identify and explore relevant concepts associated with the theme. These concepts can relate to the theme as a whole or distinct aspects of the theme. Considering the use of the words aspect and concept, if you were to brainstorm to define your ideas on the research area of robotics, what would it look like? What are the aspects and concepts you might consider? You may need to rewind the video to the previous slide titled Exploring Concepts as a prompt to this activity. Pause the video at this point to participate in this activity. This is one teacher's response to the activity. Not all of the ideas may be suited for junior cycle. However, a brainstorming activity influenced by Lens 2 may act as a pathway for students to establish a particular research question which is of interest to them, and from that establish a type of research they will use to gather information to communicate what they've learned in CBA 2. It would allow students also to make connections between the lenses. At this point, we have developed our understanding of CBA 2 and its lenses. What we're going to do now is reflect on Jane's practice and how she developed research skills with a group of second years. And we will also consider CBA 2 for any academic year from the perspective of supporting them as they engage in CBA 2. Jane will explain how she supported her students in this unit. This is not a CBA, but a unit Jane designed for first and second years to develop research skills. We will pause the video at a few points to reflect on how you can support your students in a research activity, how to navigate curriculumonline.ie to CBA 2 for this academic year, and reflect on activities which will build on the activity we did earlier in this resource video.
The theme for the research was based around robotics. We identified robotics as being something that the students were interested in class. So when they were researching this, they had to decide what exactly they needed to look into. So real life applications were one of the things we discussed. The students would have to research some images for robotics and robotic arms, and some facts around robotics and where robotic arms were used and how they exactly worked.
In a couple of moments, I will ask you to pause this video and consider CBA 2 for this academic year. I want you to analyse CBA 2 for this year. Consider your students also and how they might be supported in such a research activity. Brainstorm the possible aspects of the CBA, the engineering concepts and the research questions that may arise from the theme as a whole or specific aspects of the CBA. From that, I want you to plan possible strategies that you could use to engage and support students in this activity. Would they use a mind map, whether that be paper or digital, or any other strategy? I'm going to show you where to find CBA 2 on curriculumonline.ie for this academic year, then I will ask you to pause this activity to complete the task. To find the relevant information and documentation for CBA 2, go to curriculumonline.ie, Junior Cycle, Engineering. You will locate the theme for CBA 2 behind this red tile in any given year. It is also recommended that you use your assessment guidelines. You scroll down. The text for CBA 2 starts on page 20. And it is recommended that you read this body of text in preparation for CBA 2. In particular, the text centering on the 3 lenses for CBA 2. The assessment guidelines are useful to guide you through all stages of the CBA process, including completing the CBA. Once you and your students have established a theme for CBA 2 for any academic year, referring to the assessment guidelines and its language can be a good guide to completing the CBA. In CBA 2, students are asked to carry out research. They can research concepts related to the theme, specific aspects, or research concepts related to the theme as a whole. A brainstorming activity such as this may be useful for establishing research questions, planning for the CBA, and engaging your students in the CBA. There are resources on jct.ie website, such as the Design Guide, which will provide additional support in developing research questions. At this point, I want you to pause this video, reflect on CBA 2 for this academic year, and develop a mind map on the CBA 2 theme, including its aspects and concepts, and the theme as a whole, and possible research questions that could emerge from that. At this point, we will continue with Jane discussing their class and practice and how she supported her students in the remainder of the research.
The learning intentions for the research element of the unit were discussed with the students before they began their research. The learning intentions for this section were based around conducting relevant research, identifying what exactly needed to be researched, and using correct references when they had gained their sources. The students researched individually so that they could all create their own individual poster to communicate their research at the end. Before the students commenced their research, we had a class discussion around how exactly they were going to present this information, and it was decided upon that they were going to present a poster. As we were fortunate enough to have tablets, the students could either make their poster a digital format or they could use A3 paper. Most of the students decided to go down the digital route, but I did have 2 students who decided that they wished to present their findings on paper. Once the students had gathered all of their information from their research, we had a discussion around what exactly a good poster would look like, and we co-constructed the success criteria. We did this by looking at some examples of posters and deciding what worked well in a poster and what information was not required for the poster. When the students had finished their posters, they worked in pairs to analyse each other's work and to create some formative feedback for their partner. While the students were working in their pairs, they were using the success criteria that we had created to give that feedback to their partner. The students discussed even better if and what worked well when they were looking at their posters. And when they were finished this conversation, the student was able to go back and use that feedback to try and improve on their poster.
Before we progress with the remainder of the CBA2 resource, I want you to pause the video at this particular point. Reflect on Jane's approach to classroom practice and research skills. And I want you to consider, how are you going to support your students as they progress through their research activity in relation to CBA2 in this academic year? Before we progress any further, Kieran O'Callaghan, our engineering advisor, is just going to summarise the points that we made so far in this video resource, and he will use this graphic to be able to explain it.
This resource has been developed as a visual representation and summary of the CBA2 for Junior Cycle Engineering, as outlined in the Junior Cycle Engineering specification and the assessment guidelines for engineering. So our CBA2 journey begins with the research theme issued by the NCCA. In our visual cue here, let's imagine this as being a cardboard box delivered to our classroom. Once we have it, we can now begin to unbox it and see what different aspects or what different areas are within the one theme. In the example Jane used in her research question with her students, she chose a robotic arm. When the students begin to look at the aspects of that theme, they will discover that, like our visual cue here, there are different shapes or different parts within the one theme. In Jane's example, the students would have looked at the robotic arm and perhaps broken down that example into what is an arm, what are the components of an arm, what does it need to have to function. They may have looked at robotics and said, what is robotics and what is the control for robotics? Once our students have these broad areas or aspects, they can begin to look at them through the lenses outlined in the assessment guidelines, which are research and analysis and exploring the concepts of the engineering. The students will use their research skills to determine what research they need to conduct, what would be appropriate for that particular theme or that aspect of the theme. It may be some primary research where they can get some hands-on experience, or it may need to be some secondary research if the student hasn't got direct access to what it is they want to research. The student should use their research skills to build up an understanding of what, why, where, when and so on, and determine some engineering concepts based on their research. This may not be a completely linear process. As the student explores, they may need to do some more research and develop some further questions as they bounce these ideas around in their head and gain more knowledge through their research. Once the student has developed some findings based on the research they've conducted, they now need to communicate their ideas, and they may do that through any appropriate medium. Again, depending on the research the student has conducted, they may want to give some annotated sketches. They may want to give a poster. They may want to submit a vlog or an audio recording. They may submit some videos, or indeed they may submit a text report that they have produced. On the top of our graphic, we have a simplified breakdown of the process. The theme, broken down into aspects of the theme, looked at through the lenses, research conducted, and the student's findings communicated to the teacher. If we look at our process in the bottom arrow of our graphic, we can see we start off on the yellow block here with the research topic issued by the NCCA. As we move along on our journey, we find that the assessment guidelines indicate that the CBA takes a maximum of 3 weeks and the completion date is issued by the NCCA. As the student begins work, the student, under the guidance of the teacher, determines aspects within the theme, and the students then analyse the aspects using appropriate research to determine the engineering concepts. The student then communicates their individual findings through appropriate media. And again, the foundation of this, printed on the side of our little road here, is the purpose of the CBA, which is to research, explore and present findings. And that guides everything we do as we complete CBA 2.
Once the CBA has been completed, a teacher will assess and apply a provisional descriptor to the student's work, prior to engaging in the SLAR with their colleagues. When assessing the CBA, the teacher will first observe the features of quality associated with the descriptor yet to meet expectations. Should the student satisfy those features of quality, we then examine the work associated with the descriptor in line with expectations. Once again, if the student work satisfies all the features of quality, we continue to above our expectations and finally exceptional. All work submitted is judged to fit one of these 4 descriptors. Teachers use the features of quality set out in the assessment guidelines to decide the level of achievement in each classroom-based assessment. At an appropriate moment in their learning, students should be familiarised with the features of quality that will be used to judge the quality of their work. If a student does not submit a CBA, they are assigned not reported. You will need to refer to the features which are on page 25 and 26 of the guidelines for classroom-based assessment. On screen you will see 2 of the 4 descriptors, yet to meet expectations and in line with expectations. A teacher may start by applying the features of quality for research and analysis to a piece of student work. If the teacher decides that the work meets or possibly exceeds this feature quality, then they would move to the same feature in line with expectations. They will continue this process until the appropriate descriptor for that lens is found for that student CBA. The process then completes over the second feature, exploring concepts, and then communicating their CBA. Considering the most appropriate feature for each descriptor, an unbalanced approach is taken to select the most appropriate descriptor for that student work. The approach taken here in this video of examining the features is just for examination purposes, as not the only approach, and teachers may choose, for example, to go to reflect on all the features together in a descriptor. What is important is that you start at the lowest descriptor and work upwards and use the unbalanced approach to selecting the best fitting descriptor. After applying the provisional descriptor to the student CBA, the teacher will participate in a subject learning and assessment review meeting, also called a SLAR. In this meeting, teachers will share samples of student work and will discuss the quality of student learning, including the provisional descriptor applied to the samples. The professional discussion will inform each teacher's understanding of the quality of student work and the features of quality, which in turn may inform the process of altering the descriptors applied to the student work if appropriate, and inform the feedback provided to the students after the CBA. The engineering team have developed a document accompanying this video with a range of supports which may be used to inform a teacher and or a facilitator in planning for a CBA in the SLAR process. If you have any questions on how you plan for a SLAR meeting as a teacher or facilitator, and if you're unsure in relation to which forms and documents are required, you can locate this support document on screen in the assessment folder in the engineering section of jct.ie. This document will support you through each step of CBA 1, CBA 2 and the SLAR process, and also guide you to website resources and the guidelines for classroom-based assessments. Also on the jct.ie website there are webinar recordings which also look at other teachers' approaches to developing research skills in the engineering classroom. They are titled Goal-Oriented Problem Solving in Junior Cycle Engineering and Engineering in Action. You will find them in the Engineering CPD support section of the website. When you go to this folder, you will find the lectures in the menu on the left. We hope you found this screencast useful and best wishes with your engagement in CBA 2.